All right, and we are live. Before we get into this video, breaking news for the players. Sorry, we had some technical difficulties. Before we get into this video, breaking news for the playback. It looks like Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, there may be a delay until September. That is right. Breaking news. It just started this live. I'm looking at an article right now from DraftKings. Fight is scheduled to happen on the 24th, but COVID outbreak is a good bet to result in a pause. It does not necessarily need to be a lengthy postponement. ESPN is reporting the fight could be moved to September following the Manny Pacquiao Earl Spence Jr. pay-per-view that is scheduled for August. So there we go. A little bit of breaking news that the Fury-Wilder fight could possibly, may possibly, more than likely is being postponed. Dang. Now, I'm going to get into that real fast, and then I'll get into another section of this video. That's crazy that the whole reason why it went to arbitrations was because this fight allegedly kept getting postponed until the contract expired. Now, here we go again. Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury is getting postponed yet again. So what was the point of the arbitrations being overruled in favor of Deontay Wilder just for the fight to get postponed like it's been getting postponed, which led to the arbitrations? This shit is insane, and you cannot make it up. It is crazy how this fight just cannot seem to happen. It's supposed to happen a year and a half ago, and now it's being postponed all the way to September, possibly. What's going on, BK? How you doing? Welcome to the live. So, again, it's crazy to me. I don't know if they're doing it because ticket sales look weak. I don't know if they're doing it because they want a bigger audience. I don't know what's going on with the Deontay Wilder-Tyson Fury fight, but every time it seems to happen, it just doesn't happen. And at some point in time, no matter how bad people want to see it, if they keep postponing it, when does the fight get let go of? When does it get let go of? When is enough and we can go forward with the next chapter of the heavyweight division? Because, again, arbitrations led to, postponements led to Tyson Fury pulling out of the fight because Bob Arum said the contract expired. That led to arbitrations. Now that arbitrations has led to a fight, now we're having another postponement to where the fight's not going to happen. Again, insanity, in my opinion. It makes absolutely no sense how this fight just keeps getting backed up. I don't know if this is on Tyson Fury's side, meaning Top Rank, or if this is on Deontay Wilder's side, PBC. I am going to assume, and my assumption is based off of Bob Arum, and what I read about the first arbitration is that more than likely the delays are because of Top Rank, are because of Bob Arum. I do not know 100% who is, but I would assume that since Deontay Wilder won the arbitrations, that the delays were actually on Top Rank's side and not on Deontay Wilder's side, thus leading into the trilogy versus the contract expiring. So I feel like here we are again, that this fight is getting backed up. Now, what does this mean? Does that mean Tyson Fury doesn't feel prepared? Does that mean, if it is on Tyson Fury's side, I'm saying, does that mean that he needs more time to get ready? And I would say no to all of those. Give me 1 second, guys. I wanted to open up my blinds. It's a little dark in here. Y'all can't see because I'm not on camera, but I would say no. I would say no, that Tyson Fury wants to fight Deontay Wilder. He feels like he can't lose to Deontay Wilder, and I don't think it's being backed up because of Tyson Fury being scared to fight Deontay Wilder. What I think it has to do with is Bob Arum, the penny pitcher that he is wanting all the money he can get, and he's seeing that because we have this Delta strain coming in, that things may get closed down again, and he doesn't want to risk not making maximum dollar on this fight. So here it is again. he's pushing back the fight. If I had to guess, I do not know because I am not in either camp, nor have I been with the lawyers or the contract signings to know what's really going on behind the scenes. But if I had to guess, as greedy as Bob Arum is more than likely him delaying the fight and him pushing the fight back. So Joe asked, do I think it's because of ring rust? No. Do you think the ring rust will hurt more? No, Joe, I don't think ring rust will hurt more because here's the thing. It would be different if Tyson Fury was going forward with the Anthony Joshua fight. Anthony Joshua, who has recently fought. However, he's going forward to fight Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder's last fight was against Tyson Fury. So ring rust cannot really be used in this case because both guys have been out of the ring for the same amount of time. So you can't say one's ring rusted and the other one's not. They're either both ring rusted, which negates it, or neither one is ring rusted and that still negates it. So I don't think ring rust will hurt more. I think they're in the same boat. What's going on, Black?
What's up, Tony? How you feel, bro?
Feel good. How about yourself? I'll be right back. You can talk.
Okay. But feeling good. Shout out to everybody that's tuning in and also that's gonna catch the playback. But this is disappointing, man. It's disappointing for the heavyweight division, for the ones that wanted to see some progress in the heavyweight division and put this rivalry to bed. We gotta wait. We gotta wait now, further. And like Tony was saying, this whole arbitration thing, which kind of just like kept things from happening, I guess, with Fury and AJ. And then now it's like, he wants arbitration so that this fight can get made and be ordered for a certain time. But now it's delayed, so it's stupid, man. Be honest with you, it's stupid to me. I think it's some politics, some politics going on. I don't know if it's Top Rank side, PBC side. I honestly, truly felt like Wilder wasn't ready for whatever he was gonna bring that night anyway. But maybe this little delay they feel might help Wilder. Maybe they feel it'll give them some more time. I don't know, man. I just want this stupid fight to be over with.
And that's my thing. Like, this has been my biggest problem with Deontay Wilder as a heavyweight champion. It has slowed down and stopped the heavyweight division in the sense of undisputed. One face, one name. You know what I mean? Like, ever since Deontay Wilder has had his belt, he's never tried to unify with anybody. Even before AJ had the other three major titles, because he's actually got 4 titles, but the 3 major belts that he holds, he never tried to fight any of those other champions. He never tried to fight Joseph Parker. He never tried to fight Charles Martin. I don't understand why, when it comes to Deontay Wilder, it always seems like it gets bogged down and we never move past the WBC. And that's what I feel like is happening right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like that though, man. It's almost like Wilder lost, when he first lost to Fury, pandemic came shortly after that. I'm like, God damn, it's plagues and shit happening all over the earth and shit just because this man lost. You got all of these conspiracy shits coming out, conspiracy theories coming out just because he lost. Of course, this arbitration thing, we could say somewhat prevented heavyweight undisputed for this year. Although I'm not faulting Wilder for wanting to get back in there or whatnot, and if that's illegally on the contract for him to get this third fight before he could do undisputed Fury, that is, then so be it. But it just seems like there's a lot of theatrics going on with Wilder, just with him losing. And I don't see what it is, man. I don't see what's so special about Deontay Wilder. He's not a great boxer. To me, he ain't a great, what I'm saying? He's not a great example, not a great leader. I mean, just because somebody talk loud and say that they the king and shit, that don't mean nothing. You know what I mean? This is about boxing. And so, I don't know. It's just this has commanded enormous amount of attention, but not good attention for the health of the sport. I think it's been two guys who, even though Fury is he's a great fighter. He's been fighting since I think he was, I don't know how old, real young though, but Um, Even though that was his his second, it's like second nature to him. It doesn't seem like boxing is his true all overall passion. Like I don't feel the same intensity that I get when I see guys like AJ, who's also in the same weight class, Dylan White, guys like that. They love it, man. They probably would just rather hang out in the gym every day. But I don't see that with Wilder and Fury, man. They care more about popularity and other stuff, and it just really hurt the sport. So we gotta wait longer. It gives the man fans all over the world from both sides to talk more shit until this goddamn fight get made. I'm so damn tired of the talking when it comes to both sides. I'm just ready for this fight to be over with so we can put this to rest once and for all, man.
And I agree. I'm ready for it to be over with as well. And I do also agree with you about Deontay Wilder. Like, you cannot be mad or fault him. Anybody listening, you cannot fault him for wanting his trilogy that was signed for. You cannot fault him for wanting the opportunity to win back his title, because if he didn't jump on it, right, and Tyson Fury loses that belt, it's not guaranteed that he could fight Anthony Joshua. It's not guaranteed that if Anthony Joshua loses to Usyk, that Usyk gives him a shot if he doesn't have a title. So you can't fault him for that. My only thing is 10 title defenses, and not in any of those 10 title defenses did you decide to want to unify against any other champion. But the whole time you're saying one face, one name. I don't get it. That's my issue. Meanwhile, on the
One
flip side of the
one name,
coin,
one belt.
yeah, one name, one belt. Meanwhile, on the flip side of the coin, you got AJ, who's gathered up, like I said, 4 titles, 1 minor belt, 3 of the major belts, and he's constantly fighting mandatory after mandatory after mandatory after mandatory. Case in point to Usyk coming up. Usyk, I'm not saying AJ did not want the fight, but I can tell you Eddie Hearn did not want that fucking fight. He has been talking about getting AJ to vacate that damn WBO title for the last 2.5, 3 years, because ever since Usyk moved up to heavyweight, Eddie Hearn was immediately talking about, oh, we could just vacate the title. We don't have to take on the mandatories. And then Usyk keep getting pushed to the back burner. So that's a fight that Eddie definitely did not want. But Joshua, once again, is going for it. Like, he is fighting all his mandatories, and he's done everything he could to win all the titles and hold on to all the titles. Meanwhile, the WBC is just bogged down the fucking division. And again, I don't like this, because what we could have had if this fight went on this month like it was scheduled to is undisputed by the end of the year. Now the earliest that you could get undisputed is the beginning of next year, January, February timeframe. And that's if Dillian White doesn't say, well, wait a fucking minute, hold up. It's been a year. I get my shot before they do undisputed. So then you're looking at mid to late next year, depending on if there's a rematch clause that Dillian White wins before you even get undisputed. I'm starting to think that undisputed never happens.
I was sitting there when you was talking. I was like, you know what, man? With everything, all those factored in, you know, I don't see it happening either. And it's like, how long does AJ have to wait? How many more defenses is he gonna have to fight before he actually get a shot at that WBC belt? You know what I mean? How long is Dylan White still gonna have to wait before he get his shot? Will they try to shank him again out of his opportunity? So I agree, bro. I don't think it's gonna happen either, and it's unfortunate, man. It's unfortunate that it's like this is the second weight class. It's 2 different weight classes where I see PBC holds the last piece of the puzzle and don't look like they willing to give it up, and that's at 68 and at heavyweight. You know what I mean? I don't want to talk about 47 situation, but they got like Caleb Plant got that last belt, and Canelo needs that belt from him to become undisputed. Uh, Wilder or Fury, about to fight Wilder, but Fury has the last belt. AJ trying to get it from him. You know what I mean? But hopefully, don't if it ends up back in Wilder's hand, we can for sure forget about undisputed. That's out. But if Fury wins, I don't know, man. What they gonna do? Another rematch? Him and Wilder again? You know what I mean? Because I think they've entertained that idea of just having multiple rematches. You know, I'm like, man, they don't give a shit, bro.
They're never gonna get past each other because they're always gonna be even. Tyson Fury loses this one rematch. Tyson Fury wins the next one rematch. Deontay Wilder wins the next one rematch. Like this shit, man, it's just stuck in a rut. Like you're right. And I would also say probably at 160, the PBC's holding up because Big Charlo's not really wanting to fight the other
Yeah,
champions.
right. Yeah.
I mean, little Charlo, he's doing everything he can to become undisputed, and you got to give him all the credit in the world. And while Jamal is, I think, a very good fighter because the way he beat Dermianchenko was beautiful, it doesn't look like he wants to move forward. That was like his one and done. Okay, I am an elite fighter, but now I don't have anything else to prove, so I'm not type fight, in my opinion. Like he's doing nothing. And then, like you said, 147. Errol Spence Crawford. It doesn't look like it's ever going to happen. Crawford's better off going to 154 and trying to fight little Charlo to get all the belts versus staying at 147. Yeah, and then like you said, Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant, he says he wants $500 million to fight Canelo because that's what he's worth. And if he doesn't get $500 million and a whole year to train for him, it's not enough time. Like we need a year. We need 12 months and $500 million, and then we'll fight you. Like this shit's just ridiculous. And I don't know why it does seem like it is the PBC that keeps division after division after division holding it up. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's a business move fueled by financials. They're scared that they're going to lose all their money, but I have no idea.
I mean, you look at their previous face of boxing, Floyd, he never pushed for undisputed ever. So a lot of them guys have, mapped their blueprint off of Floyd, or at least say that they're doing it. You know what I mean? And if they are going to try to take the Floyd blueprint, none of them trying to really pursue undisputed. You know what I mean? Jermell Charlo or Brian Castano will become the first undisputed PBC fighter
Yep.
ever. So that just shows you kind of what it is. Like they don't put big emphasis on undisputeds, and maybe it's just, it just depends, on the fighter. But you look in the multiple divisions, like we just mentioned, it's like they're not really making a big deal about it. Man, I seen somebody to say the other day on my channel, first, in one sense, they talking about they love undisputeds, and then they said, man, fuck the WBO. WBO ain't shit. I'm like, do y'all not listen to yourselves? Like, you can't be biased and then, discredit one title, and then you say you all about undisputed. That means all titles are relevant then, bro. The WBO, WBA, WBC, and IBF. Like, so it'd be crazy. It
Yo,
just it
like,
comes down to, Tony, when a fighter that they don't like is holding that strap, then it just out, man. That belt trash, man. Just to appease and defend the guy that they. So that'd be crazy to me.
the thing that's so funny about that shit is the WBO meant so much to the PBC fighters until Terrence Crawford won that fucking title. Like in 147, all of them wanted Jeff Horn. All of them wanted him. And then Terrence got him first and beat him, won the title. Now they're talking about the WBO is not even a legitimate belt. It doesn't matter. Nobody wants it. Then what's so funny about that is before the Billy Joe Saunders Canelo fight happened, there was a Fox broadcast where they were talking about Canelo, and it was like they mentioned all these different champions in all the weight classes, and they finally circled back to 168. And it was like, well, there is one champion we did not mention, Billy Joe Saunders, who is the WBO champion. It was like they didn't even want to give Billy Joe Sanders the champion status. It was like pulling teeth, and they was just trying to hide it as long as they could before they brought up the title that he had. It's insanity. Like, it's crazy.
And you know what makes it even more insane? The way they get bodied, because they be trying to act like all PBC don't fuck with the WBO, but then Jermell bodies that whole shit because he going after the last belt, which is the WBO, for undisputed. That just be like, man, y'all just clowns. Like it's crazy. So that whole situation, man, with that, man, is just, PBC ain't been about, unifying all titles. But I'm just glad Jermell and Castano is breaking that chain, man, on the PBC side, and will become one of the first undisputeds for PBC.
What's going on? Welcome to the chat.
Bobby
What's up?
Valentino, what's going on?
Hey, what's up? What's up, Tony?
What's going on?
Not much. That much. Kind of funny how you go live and you get this breaking news about the Wilder and Fury thing.
Yeah, man. Yeah, like, dude, my dude. I had to change the title of the video. Like, I was, I did it like 30 minutes early saying I was gonna go live, or like 15 minutes. I don't remember how many minutes. And like as I was waiting to go live, I saw the breaking news and I had to change the fucking title. Like crazy.
Yeah, so, exactly, man. Yeah, my wigger. But it's crazy. I heard some rumblings that because Tyson Fury is not in shape, that he's going to use his extra time to get in shape. With it being postponed, what do you think about it?
I don't know. I don't know. I really see the problem with Tyson Fury is when he's in shape, he's fat. When he's out of shape, he's fat. And when he's somewhere in between, he's fat.
Well, I mean, when he wasn't boxing and he was on his alcoholic run, yes, he's always fat, but I mean, like he was like my 600-pound life almost. I mean, he was getting up. I mean, that's like this obese. He was like morbidly obese. I mean, to the point where you could not box, right? So I mean, he's always like that. But I mean, the fact that he said he's going to be over 300 pounds though for coming into that match, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, why would you come in the heaviest you ever came in, and for the second fight, your size where you were? I think what was he at, like 260? 270, 280? What was he at?
272, either 272 or 273.
So you're gonna add extra 30 pounds on you for, I don't know how smart that is. You know what I'm saying? For your conditioning. So it would not surprise me if he's like, somebody in camp's like, listen, Tyson, we need an excuse. I'm not saying he's doing this. I'm just saying it would not surprise me if somebody in his camp was like, you know what, Tyson, we need you to, just pretend like somebody got COVID in this camp and, take some extra time to get your body right and take this serious, because he has not been taking it serious.
Hey, the postponement coming from the Fury side?
Yeah.
Oh, word?
Somebody.
There's no real answer to that. It was first reported by ESPN, which they're with Top Rank, but that doesn't per se mean it's the Fury camp delaying it. So I don't know. I like I said at the beginning of this video, if I had to assume and go off of the assumption, I would say it probably is the Top Rank side, just because I know how Bob Arum is and how he wants to nickel and dime everything he can, and he wants maximum capacity. And if he sees that there's going to be 2 or 3 seats not filled, he's going to postpone the fight. So I would think that it came from their side, but I don't know if conditioning is the reason why.
Oh, no, I'm not saying. I was just hypothesizing. I'm not saying that's exactly what he's doing, but I said would not surprise me, because but that did come from his side though. That was on the websites. Somebody in Fury.
But they saying it's COVID.
They're saying that. Basically, they're saying that somebody in Fury's camp got COVID-19, and now they have to possibly postpone everything because of that. That's basically, but it was on Fury's side that they're saying that somebody had got COVID in his camp, not Fury himself, but somebody on his team.
Okay, so you saw a different article than what I saw, because the article I saw was that because of the Delta strain variant that's coming out, they're concerned about the arenas not being able to have capacity for the fans, and that's why they're postponing it.
Oh, you saw something different than what I saw then, because I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So, I mean, you might be right. You might be right. Somebody in this camp may have caught it. I don't know. Like, your article is completely different than mine. The one that I was reading came from DraftKings. So okay. I don't know.
Okay. Well, yeah. Then I mean, it does happen sometimes in boxing where you write articles and just saying two different things. So, but yeah, but that's crazy though. At the end of the day, if it's postponed, when do you think they're gonna put it back on?
Well, they're saying September. They're looking for September right now.
That's what I did hear. They're talking about thinking about September.
Oh, you know what I just thought about? It's definitely coming from Tyson Fury's side. I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you fucking why right now. I just connected the fucking dots. This is Bob Arum right here. I'm saying allegedly. Just hear me out real fast. It just clicked in my fucking head. Check this out.
You gonna put it on Theo shit?
Yes, exactly. They're gonna fucking put it around the same time as Tio's and kill his damn pay-per-view.
Wait, he gonna kill his pay-per-view, or they gonna put it on the same card?
No. They can't put it on the same card. Tio's going through
Triller shit.
Yeah. I guarantee you they're going to do it the same day or the week before.
Better not do that shit to us on Fighter.
So you think Uncle Bobby is trying to get back at Tio?
Yeah, because listen, they just put out that the Kambosos fight, it was supposed to happen in August, but it got delayed to September. And here we are, Tyson Fury's now get a delay to the same month.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
That's what you're saying.
Oh, well, Theo. Fucking get it.
I bet you. Now, this is all alleged, and this is all conspiracy theory, and this is coming out of my mind, but I bet you this is Bob Arum taking a fucking dagger and sticking it in his kidneys and saying, you know what? You want to restructure your contract? I got you, bitch. You don't want to rematch Lomachenko? I got you, bitch. And he's going to do everything he can to fuck with Tio from here on. And Tio's trapped now.
He might, though, because, that is a Triller event, so he don't give a fuck about that. And he got his money already. He getting his money already from that shit.
Hell yeah.
That sounds like a Bob Arum thing to do. You would do something like that. That sounds like a Bob Arum thing to do.
Because let me ask you this. Let's be honest. Who the fuck is going to watch Tio versus Kambosos when they can watch Wilder versus Fury?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's going to really hurt their numbers for sure.
But you know what's crazy, though? Go ahead, bro. Sorry, my bad. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, fam.
I was just saying, you know what's crazy, though, too, is like, even though we all know that heavyweight fight is way bigger than the Teofimo fight, but I mean, I'm looking at the ticket sales, and those ticket sales ain't doing too hot.
The Wilder Fury?
Yeah, it's not doing as hot as probably the second fight or something.
Because I thought it would do better because of all the extra.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it will do pay-per-view better, but I'm just saying the ticket sales are looking like it's not. Because I'm looking at the T-Mobile Arena seats, and there's like a lot of empty seats.
Well, the thing about it is, and I'm gonna be honest, and I'm not saying that Deontay Wilder cannot win the trilogy, but here's the problem: when you have a majority of the boxing community who believes Tyson Fury should have won the first match, okay, and believes that it was a gifted draw, then in the rematch, Tyson Fury goes out there and beats the living shit out of the guy. It's a hard sell to get people to want to watch it a third time and think that the outcome is going to be any different than the first two times they watched it. Now, I'm not saying that by default means Wilder's going to lose. All I'm saying is it's a very hard sell to a lot of people, especially with the price that they're probably going to charge.
Exactly. And you could sell the second fight. I mean, you could sell it better than you could this fight. I mean, you could sell the second fight. Okay, it's a draw, controversial. Okay, well, even though majority of people thought Fury won, but okay, it was still, what I'm saying? Wilder didn't get just beat down. He was still in the fight, knocked him down a couple of times. So you could kind of sell it, but the third fight it's getting hard. That's why I'm thinking, like, I don't think that the pay-per-view is going to do as good as the second one did. I don't think so.
Yeah,
I could be incorrect, but I don't think so.
I tend to agree with you. I said this, oh gosh, Black, I think I said this on your channel like 7-8 months ago, maybe not that long ago, maybe 4 or 5 months ago. But I said they're not advertising this right. This fight, because this was before they announced the trilogy. I said I wanted it to happen. And this was around the time when Tyson Fury was supposed to fight Anthony Joshua. Then he was complaining about ring rust, that he didn't get to have that fight in October. And then they were going to throw him in there with AJ. And he was concerned because he hadn't had a tune-up fight. And I was talking about that. Well, that's dumb. You could have fought Deontay Wilder and not had to worry about a tune-up. But what I said is the way they should have marketed this is like no excuses. And then what they should have done is they should have flashed Tyson Fury being knocked down in that 12th round, right? Where it looks like he's damn near knocked out. And then people saying, oh, it should have been called off right there. Deontay Wilder won. Then show the draw where people are like, no, Tyson Fury outboxed him. Then show like the excuses, like the egg waste, this, that, spiked water. Like every time it could have been like, and then the whole fight could have been no excuses. That could have been labeled for this shit. And it would have been great marketing.
Yeah, I agree. That would have been lit.
Yeah, no excuses. Because
but it is Bob Arum. So
yeah, I definitely think it's Bob Arum.
because even though if you think that Tyson Fury, the majority of fans think he won the first fight, you could make an argument that he lost the fight if you consider that 10 count long, right? If you consider that a long count, and that's why I'm like, actually, even though I do believe that Fury outboxed Wilder, I believe that if we're being very fair, that was, I think that Tyson Fury did not make the count. I don't think he made the count. I mean, because he was counting very long. And that probably was about 11 seconds that I counted. But I mean, if you don't count that knockdown, then Tyson Fury won the first fight.
Well, see, here's my thing.
That's the only reason why. But
I got you, but this is what I'm gonna say. I have to disagree about it being a long count. So there's two factors that you have to look at. One, there's the human factor. Okay, nobody is a stopwatch. So a 10 count by a human being is either going to be fast or slow. Now, it can, it shouldn't be extremely fast, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You're knocked out, and it shouldn't be 1, 2, 3. You see what I'm saying? But
yes,
if it's within margin of error, that's just normal because people aren't clocks. Now, the second thing, the reason why I disagree is because if you watch the fight, not like fan-made videos where they supposedly have timers and stopwatches, but if you actually watch the fight in that 12th round on the Showtime clock, the very second Tyson Fury on the Showtime clock, which cannot be edited or wasn't edited because it was a live clock, the very second he touches the canvas is at 2:21. He is fully up by 2:12, which is 9 seconds by the Showtime clock. Like he is completely standing up on his feet before the timer goes at 2:11. So to me, he beat a real world 10-second count. Now, to me, a more valid. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, but then that comes into like exactly when do you call somebody that they can't compete? When do you call them off? That's another debate, right?
Right.
Like,
so that's
because there's some refs out there, like you said about the stopwatch. Nobody's exactly. You're right. Kind of up your discretion. You have to be reasonable though. But that's like saying somebody like exactly some refs would have waved them off, and some refs may have not waved them off. You understand what I'm saying? So that goes into discretion of the ref. It's like that's why I'm like, you could make an argument saying you could have waved it off, and I can say you could have made an argument that he did make it because again he wasn't hurt. Like you could compete. He could have competed like he did after the 10 count, right? He wasn't hurt. But if we're being technical about it, you could make a strong case saying, hey, he should have been waved off.
That's what I was going to say. That's what I was alluding into. There can be a valid argument made about whether or not that final knockdown in the 12th round, the second one, could have been waved off. Now, I would be lying if I said there wasn't. There are definitely referees who have waved off for less. But there are also referees who have seen way worse knockdowns where guys were taking way worse beatings that didn't wave it off. So again, I can understand that's really the only valid argument people could have, whether it should have been waved off or not waved off. But I tend to look at the fact of what happened after the knockdown. That's what I look at to decide whether it should have been waved off or not. My contention is this. For me to decide whether it should have been waved off or not, what did the fighter do after he was knocked down? Well, in that 12th round, when Tyson Fury got up, it's not like he took a bunch of punishment and survived the final count in the 12th round. No, what he did was he got back up and took the fight to Deontay Wilder and won the rest of the round. So that's why I feel like it shouldn't have been waved off, but you are correct. There are some referees who would have waved it off immediately by the way he hit the ground. That's not really a dispute. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you see, and here goes another thing is even like we agree that Tyson Fury was capable of fighting back and he beat his ass the rest of the round. So there's no debate on that. But if we're going to follow a technical rule by rule, and this is why there needs to be some flexibility. You know what I'm saying? It can't be like, because you can tell that he was ready to fight and he fought him. But if we're being technical and you're saying, let's say that the ref did wave him off because the ref felt like, hey, he couldn't compete, he would have been in his right to do that. You understand what I'm saying? So that's why I'm like, an argument just could be. Now, I understand that Tyson Fury outboxed Wilder. That's not what I'm saying. I understand people say he won. But if we're just going to go rule by rule, book by book, an argument can be made. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and I don't dispute that because here's what I look at. Like I said, for me personally, for me to decide whether something was should have been waived off, if it's not waived off, I want to see what they do after they got knocked down. So, like in this case, Tyson Fury came back to win the round. So, therefore, my opinion is the right decision was made because he had full control of his body and he wasn't out. However, if I will say this, this is where I try my best to be impartial and unbiased towards fighters. If I can make an honest statement, if that fight would have been waived off at that very moment when Tyson Fury hit the canvas in the 12th round, nobody would have argued it because of the way he fell. Even the people who support Tyson Fury would not have, maybe a very small majority of them would have. But overall, I feel like if you would have waved it off immediately how he hit the ground, nobody would have argued it. So I can give you that. I just don't feel like it should have been waved off because of how it played out.
Yeah, and I see what you're saying, but then that's after the fact because when he got up and his eyes were big, he was looking at the ref. Yeah, yeah. And you know how when boxers get beat up bad, or you fight your big brother, or somebody's beating you. You know, if you ever lost a fight or you've been in, get somebody got the best of you, it's like you want to continue to keep going. Your heart saying, "Let's go," because you're ashamed, you're embarrassed, right? So Fury got up and got his eyes big, and he's like, "Oh no, I can go." At that particular point, if I was a ref, I would say, "Oh, this guy's not ready to go," regardless of the fact. You see what I'm saying? You see how this just such a fine line, and the way he got up, even though he got up quickly, and his reaction when his eyes, because his eyes were looking starry and dreamy when he got up. You kind of remember that?
Yeah.
So
I know how he looked. That's why I'm saying that I can admit that if the fight would have been stopped there, I think very little people would have been upset because the way Tyson Fury looked when he fell. However, the flip side to the coin is, and again, you're right, that's after the fact, that's hindsight, but because it wasn't stopped, now we have this other threshold to gauge, was he really hurt that bad by the way he continued to fight through the round? And I would say that no, it was more or less, yes, it looked bad, but it was more of a flash knockdown versus an actual devastating knockdown. And that's the thing about it. Like, and that's another thing about Deontay Wilder, too, that I've said before, that I question how hard he actually hits, because outside of a handful of people like Spilka or Stavern, who was out of the ring for 2 years, hadn't had a fight, and then somehow became a mandatory, his knockdowns don't really look that devastating after the fact. So what I mean by that is, I've seen him knock guys out to where it looked horrible at the moment, but they seem to all recover extremely quickly. So I almost feel like Deontay Wilder, when he hits you, it's not from the actual power that's knocking you down and turning the light switch off. It's from the speed of it, because he attacks so quickly that the brain, in my opinion, doesn't process what just happened. And that's why they're on the canvas. But after the brain catches up to what the fuck just happened, it's like they're fully recovered. And it's the weirdest shit I've ever seen with his knockdowns.
Well, I don't know, man. You get in there with Deontay Wilder, you take your head and tell me how you feel afterwards.
Well, I mean, I would be a jackass to let them both hit me dead on. I would have to. Here's what I would do. If I had the opportunity, I would definitely spar with both of them. Like, if the camps called me up and was like, "Hey, Tony's Reviews, we want to do an interview with you, but a part of the interview, we want you to spar with these guys," I would definitely spar with them. But ain't no way in fucking hell you gonna pay me to sit there and let them just open hit me in the face. Fuck that.
Well, here's the thing, and this is why I believe in Wilder's power is very real. You have to understand, when he fought Luis Ortiz, Luis Ortiz is not chinning. He's never really shown to have a big, so yeah, probably has a semi-solid to solid chin. But he didn't hit Luis on a chin. He hit him on top of the forehead. And you have to be if you knock somebody out completely like that and hit him on top of the forehead, you know how strong you have to be able to punch somebody? Because it's very hard to hit on the top of the forehead and knock somebody out, which he did in the second fight. So this man has power, because again, it's much harder to knock somebody out on the top of the forehead than it is on the chin.
Yeah, but
So
you've also got to, and I'm not trying to take away from the Luis Ortiz fight, because if you go back to my videography, right, I have a breakdown. I haven't done them recently, but I used to do them, and a lot of the breakdowns that I did were pretty much like looking into a crystal ball, like I could see the future. And when I did the breakdown of that fight, I said exactly how I felt Deontay Wilder should fight. Very cautious. Let Luis Ortiz do whatever he wants to do early. The reason why is because you know he's old. You know he's going to tire. He has shown that he tires later in the fight. So what happened? You had a lot of boxing analysts come out, and you'd have to, for a more detailed breakdown, you'd have to look it up, or I could link it to you later so you can listen and see how he fought the way that I said he should fight that fight. The thing about it is he did what he was supposed to do. He didn't lose them early rounds. Yes, he lost on the scorecards, but it was all because of strategy and tactic. He knew that if he fought the way that he fought in that fight, Luis Ortiz would do exactly what I just said. He would tire. And that's when he caught him on top of the head after he was already exhausted. So it's not the same. Like, yes, it's harder to knock somebody out by hitting them in the top of the head, but it's completely different when you're doing it and they're already exhausted versus when they're full of energy. And that's all I'm saying. Yes, it looked bad, but you have to take all the circumstances into play as well.
But I thought that I mean, Luis Ortiz. I mean, let's not act like Luis Ortiz was exhausted. He wasn't. I mean, he was still fighting back. He just got timed with a good shot. I mean, he was slightly slow. He was slowing down a little bit, but it wasn't like he was just.
But that's
like
my point.
tired.
That's my point. That's my point.
But hold on. You said exhausted. Exhausted is an extreme word. So how you might have been a little tired, but if you say exhausted, that's extreme. I don't think he was exhausted.
So I'm trying to remember, because the fight was a long time ago and I watched who knows how many boxing matches. It was either the 6th or 7th round that he got the knockout. I think it was the 7th.
I believe so too.
Yeah, 7th. I believe it was the 7th. And I could Google it in a second to confirm. But again, when you watch Ortiz come out the 4th round, you saw him start to tire. When he came out the 5th round, not only did you see him tire, but you saw the work output slow down. Then in the 6th round, not only did you see him tire, the work output slow down, but you saw his hand speed slow down. So in boxing terms, when I'm saying exhausted, that's exhausted. It's not the same as like somebody who's never running a mile and then them falling over and laying on the ground, breathing out their mouth because they don't know what to do because they're not used to being in shape. That is exhausted, in my opinion, when you're talking about on a professional level, because you should never get to that point of where you're worn down that much. You are exhausted.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't think. I think for me, I don't think he was exhausted. I think he was tired. I think that when I seen him, I think I just had two definitions of exhausted and tired. I think that you think he was exhausted, and I'm saying I think he was tired. I think that, but yeah, it's okay though. But what I'm saying, my point is that it's hard. Again, we know it's hard to knock him. So I do believe his power is real. That's no joke. And then the way he knocked out Dominic Brazil. And one thing about Dominic Brazil, even though he's a trash welterweight, a heavyweight, he has a great chin. He has shown nothing but a great chin. That last fight he's been into, he took an ass whooping. I mean, a hellified ass whooping. I mean, he was getting his ass beat, but I don't think he didn't get knocked down, and he survived the whole round. And so, I mean, in those shots that he was taking, I mean, they could have knocked anybody else out. That they could have knocked Anthony Joshua out, so he can take punishment. So, but he knocked him out cleanly like that. I believe his power is very real. I don't think that. I mean, that's one thing about Wilder I'll give him is just his power. That's his get out of jail card. But why, go ahead.
This is where this. So even the Brazil fight proves what I'm saying. It's not about me saying that he doesn't have punching power, but where I think you're not understanding what I'm saying is, to me, Anthony Joshua has punching power. And what I mean by that is when AJ hits the target, you slowly start to see that target break down more and more, almost like taking a hammer to a wall. You can start seeing that hammer do damage to the wall, and the wall's never going to recover from the damage that's been inflicted on it because it's having parts chipped away every time it hits. Deontay Wilder's power, to me, isn't that type of power. It's the type of power whereas if you were just to push the wall over, yes, the wall still hits the ground, but if you stand the wall back up, it's fully intact and nothing's wrong with the wall. Against Brazil, same thing. He knocked them out, But shortly after Brazil was knocked out, he was back 100%, like nothing had even happened to him.
We're just talking. What you're talking about? You just talk. There's different types of power. Like Manny Pacquiao has that poppy pop pop pop, but it's not no thud, right? So you talking about Anthony Joshua has like a thud, like boom, boom, hit you with one. It might be kind of slow, but it packs the power, the physical strength, and the weight behind that punch. Boom. Yeah, I'm thudding. Are you suggesting that Wilder has more of a poppy, a very quick? I mean, as mixed with some
I'm like I said
as well, but
no, what I'm saying is okay. His power comes from the speed that he delivers the punch. The thing about Deontay Wilder is, and I've said this multiple times, that people never give him credit for, he's incredibly fast, especially with his feet. When he goes for that straight right, I call it a hop skip because he kind of like jumps off his front lead foot and then comes down with the back foot as he's sprinting towards you across the ring. He can go from one end of the ring to the other end of the ring in a blink of an eye. And in that same blink of an eye, not only has he gone across the whole fucking ring to where you thought you were safe, but he's already landed his shot on your face before. And that's what I'm saying. It's almost like his knockout.
So you're thinking it's like a quick poppy punch.
It's like a flash. It's just like a flash knockout. Like it happens so quickly that the brain doesn't process what just happened. But that's why I was saying earlier that when the brain catches up, the fighters always look like they're back to normal. You see what I'm saying? Like when you see AJ knock out guys.
But by that time, the fight's already over with. Go ahead.
No, the fight's already over. He wins. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not taking that away from him. What I'm saying is when you see Anthony Joshua knock out these fighters that he knocks out, right? When they get up from the knockout, they still look like their body is hurt. They still look like they have sustained a lot of damage. When you see these fighters get up after Wilder knocks them out, they look like they've not even been in a fight for the most part. So that's my point. Like I'm not saying that he can't knock people out, but I think it's more from the speed that he delivers it versus the actual raw power of the punch.
Yeah. So I mean, that's just a different type of punch. I mean, it's people who have very quick bat, and you just knocked out, and it's long enough for a knockout. But after about 2-3 minutes, you're up, just speaking like nothing happened.
Yeah.
And I see what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I'm just saying it's just different types of power. There's thudding power. There's quick poppy punches that'll knock you out real quick, like Wilder, and you'll be out for a minute. But let's not also act like Wilder has sent people to the hospital. I believe he sent that one dude to the hospital.
Spilka. That's what I said at the beginning. Yeah, that's what I said at the beginning. If you take away Spilka, and Bermain Stavern in the rematch, but you have to also take into account that Bermain Stavern was out of the ring for 2 years, hadn't had any fights, and somehow magically became the WBC mandatory. If you take away those 2 fights, for the most part, the fighters are just back up. Like, I was in a fight. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not discrediting Wilder, and it's a good thing to have too, because you can punch somebody lights out and they don't know what happened. So that's good.
And by the time they wake up, the fight's over with.
Well, it's over because you only have 10 seconds.
Yeah,
you don't
exactly.
get. So you win. You win no matter what. I'm just saying that I don't think per punch his punches have as much of a long-lasting effect as saying Anthony Joshua. It's just his is more of a fast twitch explosion versus a sledgehammer hitting you every time it hits you. Because think about this too. Anthony Joshua punches are like that sledgehammer. You can see it coming. Yeah, you can brace for it.
And the way it hits, it's like an atomic bomb went off in your head. Like boom, you go down. I see what you're saying. I know what you're saying. It's like it feels like you just broke your face. You know what I'm saying? I see what you're saying. It's just that sledgehammer power. I see what you're saying. That's what I'm just saying. It's just a different type of power.
And I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, it's just different types of power. Like Manny Pacquiao doesn't have that one sledgehammer, but he has pop. It'll catch you, boop, fat, boop, boop. You know what I'm saying? Even though he hasn't really got a knockout in the last 10 years, other than Matisse, but you see what I'm saying? It's just different compared to somebody like a Gerald Buchanan.
Manny Pacquiao hasn't had a knockout since he's fought real welterweights. Matisse wasn't an actual welterweight. He moved up to welterweight.
Yeah, agreed.
For natural welterweights, I don't think Manny's knocked out any outside of Oscar De La Hoya, and then Oscar will claim that he was weight drained. So outside of that, that's why the PEDs and all that around Manny is like, I don't know how true or not true that is, because you got to take into account the dude was pro at 16 years old. He lied about his age to go pro early. That's very young to be pro. So you got a lot of time to gain weight when you're only 16 fighting grown men. So I don't know. And then at welterweight, like I said, I don't think it was Mayweather saying, oh, you need testing. It was the fact that he's never really knocked out natural welterweights.
Yeah, and that's what. Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement with you. I think that he has good pop to his punches. Very pop. It's like Earl Spence. Like they're solid. That pop. They can with enough punches, they're gonna get you up out of there. But it's not some thunderous. Oh my gosh, hit it from the gods. Got that Zeus power. It's not.
Like Mike Tyson. You could see when Mike Tyson landed his shot. You saw souls walk out of bodies. Like they were just gone. Like there's a body there, but there's no soul. I don't know where their fucking soul went, but it's not in that body anymore. It's not that tight.
Or big George Foreman when he hit you, it was like boom. It was like you just you're knocked out. You know what I'm saying? So it's it's just in boxing, just different types of power, and that's that's why I'm like kind of now going into this subject here of what one of the reasons why I want you to go live is I see that what Timothy Bradley kind of did got under your skin. What he said got under your skin a lot. He was like, he kind of tick with you. Like,
no. It ain't that he got under my skin.
No, because you had passion in your voice. It was like, oh, this kind of what he said kind of, it got under Tony Review's skin. Yeah, man, if he can do that, we can F all day. I'm like, oh, okay, kind of triggered you a little bit. But here's the thing. Although there's some points I agree with you in your video, I can agree that's if he can do it. Let's not act like it's out of the realm of possibility that he can't do it. He's done it against high-level fighters. Again, Danny Garcia, Michael Garcia. And I understand they're not Pacquiao. They're not as fast. They're not as good. Okay, fine. But I'm saying but let's also take into account Manny has been out the ring for what over 2 years. So let's not act like it's impossible. I'm in agreement with you. I don't think he'll be able to do it at first. I believe he's going to have his hands full. Excuse me. And I don't believe he can do it at first. I don't. I just think that Manny's going to be with his gas tank. He's going to be too much for Earl to be able to try to keep him out. He's going to have to fight. I agree with you. But at the same token, I do believe that he'll start to do it as the fight goes on. Like you said, because of Manny's stamina. That's the reason why it's going to be like he's going to be able to do that towards the second half, the later half of the fight. So we're in agreement. The only thing is, let's not that I disagree with. Let's not act like it's out of the realms of possibility for him to do it, even in the beginning, just based on the circumstances, because and just size, dimensions, and everything. But go ahead.
Well, here's the thing. Ring rust is real, and I've talked about ring rust in several videos and how it's a disadvantage. However, when it comes to old men, ring rust is the best thing that can happen to you, because the older fighters, the problem is when you get older, and you can see it inside of the fights, older people bruise easier. The reason why they bruise easier is because their body doesn't heal as quickly. So damage sustains longer and it takes longer to repair. Whereas somebody in their 20s, they could get hit by, say, Deontay Wilder, and they don't even have a bruise on their face. But if you're 40 and take that same shot, your whole damn head swollen double the size. The thing about it is since he's so old, that time away from the ring could actually be the best thing for him, because it gives his body time to repair. Whereas if he was fighting on a regular at his age, there might be a lot more wear and tear sustained from that constant staying in shape, constant training for fights. So I think that the time away is more beneficial the older you get versus when you're young. You need to stay active. You need to stay in there, not only because you can, but because when you don't have all the years and years of experience like somebody of the age of Manny Pacquiao, you lose it faster than you do if it's just muscle memory from years of doing it. So that's how I see that different. Now, my contention wasn't the fact that it's not out of the realms of possibility for Earl Spence Jr. to be able to jab him and keep him out at bay even early. That is a possibility.
Yes.
And that's why I always say it's a 50-50 fight in my opinion. But what, in my opinion, is beyond ridiculous is the fact that he said he would do it easily. I'm focusing on the easily because I can tell you this, especially early, even if he can keep him at bay with the jab for the most part, it's still not going to be easy keeping him out there. He may keep him out there and maybe might not be able to land shots, but it's not going to be fucking easy. He's going to be working.
Okay. Yeah, fair. Okay. Emphasis on easily. Fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. So he's going to be working from the first round to
just like Mayweather had to do.
Tires.
Even though I give Mayweather credit for handling Manny Pacquiao, he had to be on his P's and Q's, yo. He was, I mean, you should have seen him. I mean, he's always like that. It's not actually, but I mean, to keep, because Manny Pacquiao was so fast to get inside, you have to be on his P's and Q's. It wasn't like, that's why I see when he says Manny Pacquiao was his toughest fight, because if he slipped up, Manny Pacquiao would have been on him.
Well, the thing is, the man, once again, I did a breakdown years ago. This was before I really I've only really been uploading videos consistently for like the last maybe 12 months. And what I mean by consistently is pretty much a day-to-day. I used to do boxing videos, but they'd come like once every like 2, 4, 5, 6 months. You know what I mean? Like not really caring, just randomly put them up when I put them up. But I did a breakdown on the Pacquiao versus Mayweather fight. And again, how I said it would play out, it played out. Like I said, it would look like a sparring match because the thing about speed is timing beats speed. And Mayweather, once he calculates you, once he sees how you move, how you work, it's over. Like he's not, and that's what made Mayweather. I think Mayweather is one of the best fighters to have fought, but I can never say Mayweather is the best because Mayweather, like his fighters like Tank, made business moves over legacy moves. And what I mean by that is there was other fighters he could have fought that were at their peak, at their pinnacle, at their best, and he chose not to fight them. Like and who? That's my issue. Well, he could have fought somebody that I bring up a lot, Paul Williams. He did not want Paul Williams. Paul Williams was chasing him. Before Ricky Hatton fought Costa Tszyu, Mayweather could have fought Costa Tszyu. Costa Tszyu was undefeated. Ricky Hatton pretty much retired Costa because, you know, he was older when he fought him. And then after Ricky Hatton beat Costa Tszyu, Mayweather fought him. However, we're not talking about a year or two later. We're talking about when Mayweather was 140 and could have fought him when Costa Tszyu was at his best. So there are certain fights that he could have taken. And like Black said earlier, Mayweather was never undisputed. He never went for undisputed. He could have fought Kell Brook when Kell Brook was at his best before he fought Spence. There are fighters that he could have fought that he did not fight, or he fought people like, say, Cotto, who was already on the decline. A great fighter, great name, but he wasn't at his best. He had already been battered by Margarito and all the shit that he put in his hands, but you could – what's up?
So I was going to say that. I agree with you that he didn't fight everybody, but, I mean, that's boxing, man. You're not gonna for example, we may never see Earl Spence versus Keith Thurman. All we can do is speculate. I don't know if that fight's ever gonna happen. I mean,
well, that's today's boxing. That's today's boxing. That's today's boxing.
No. I'm just saying that you don't see every single fighter. Just I mean, this is even going back to Sugar Ray Robinson. This is what's that guy's name? Is it Charlie Bird? Somebody. I forget his name. And he was an incredible fighter, and he never fought him. So this is been going, and even going back to Jack Johnson, he never fought Sam Langford. You're not going to see every single fight, whether it's the fighter is ducking them or you're not. This is boxing. You can only speculate. You can't. You're not going to be able to see every single fight.
Right.
But I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
But let's stick with Earl Spence. But the problem is this. Yes, those are one individual fighters that they may not have caught. But the problem with Earl Spence is you've got Keith Thurman. You've got Terrence Crawford. You've got Boots Ennis, who's coming up, who may or may not be what he seems to be. I don't know. He still needs to have a very hard fight to see. But they're in the cases of today, there are a lot more than just the one individual good fighter that they have not fought and probably will never fight. That's the issue. And that's why like fighters of today are not considered as great as fighters of the past who have, say, more losses than them. Because it's like when you look at the UFC. Now, Dana White robs the fuck out of his fighters. There's no question that the UFC fighters should get paid a lot more money than what they do. But the fact is, in the UFC, outside of a handful of people like John Jones, you don't see undefeated fighters because they are always forced to fight the other best. Their champions are put through the fucking gauntlet. And that's why a lot of their fighters have a bunch of losses, because eventually, if you keep fighting the best of the best of the best of the best of the best, eventually it's not going to be your night.
Agreed, but that's part of the reason why. But it's also because in the UFC MMA, the skill level is not high enough for somebody. For example, there's so many ways that you can beat the other fighter that it's like in boxing, Mayweather remain undefeated because boxing is a much more simplistic system, meaning it's only one martial art. But for example, if you have to contend, let's say you're a boxer and let's say you're a boxer and let's just say a Muay Thai guy in the UFC, but you have very little ground skills, right? Then you could definitely lose, because if it gets you on the ground, you're done. You see what I'm saying? So that's why with UFC, there's so many ways that you could take out your opponent that you may not be as good as he is in that particular martial art. That's another reason why fighters don't remain undefeated. That's another reason why. But agreed, though, yes. And as well as that, the best will consistently fight the best. Boxing does have a lot of matchmaking. So, perfect matchmaking. So it is what it is. But I wasn't trying to get caught up on the Earl Spence. I was just bringing up a example.
Well, I was just feeding to the example.
Yeah, but I was, yeah. So, but I mean, I'm not, maybe you agree with it, but let's not. Matter of fact, the fighters that Manny Pacquiao fought, he fought him after Floyd beat him. Beat them. Excuse me.
So, well, yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. Yeah,
Manny did play a lot of catch up, and that was the whole contention of why so many people push for the fight, because what it was is Manny was beating the guys that Floyd beat better outside of Marquez, because I don't even know if Marquez landed 6 punches on Mayweather in the entire fight. But every other person outside of Marquez, Manny was beating better. But again, it doesn't always correlate in fights where you beat this guy better than I did. Doesn't mean you can beat me.
Yeah, the triangle theory doesn't always work. It's just that's very, very yeah. So I just wanted, but yeah, okay. So we're in agreement then. I don't think it will be, if Earl Spence is able to do it, because it's possible. Even though I don't think he will be able to do that in the beginning, but it's possible. It's definitely not out the realms of possibility. If he is able to do that, yeah, it won't be easily. It will not be easy, just due to the speed and this Manny Pacquiao know how to get in on fighters and catch and shooting with him. And if you throw a punch and you miss that punch, he makes you pay for it. Hits you with a 2-3 punch combination. Boop boop boop. So. I agree with you.
And that's why I believe is the speed factor. See, styles make fights, as they say, right? And the biggest, and I got to go here pretty soon. This was only supposed to be a short live, but I wanted to jump on because you kept asking me about going live. So I wanted to do it for you, being that I don't go live that often, at least not anymore. But the thing is, the speed is the biggest factor in this fight. If Earl Spence Jr. was faster than what he is on his feet and with his hands, I would give Manny little chance to beat him. But in this fight, he's got to rely on his height, his reach, and his strength to, in other words, kind of have to fight him like, say, a Jeff Horn early. Rough him up in the clinch, use your strength, use your size the best you can in boxing, because strength is good to have, but it doesn't help you as much as, say, as in MMA as it does in boxing. You can't really slam people on the ground and do shit like that to use your strength to its full advantage, but you can definitely use your size to impose on them, pressure them, get them to back up, walk through them, stuff like that. If he was faster, like I said, I'd give him no chance, because, well, not no chance, but a much smaller chance of actually winning, because whenever I look at Manny versus Bud, I think Bud Crawford knocks out Manny Pacquiao, because I don't see a big speed difference, and I think Bud will stay on top of Manny, whereas I feel like Earl Spence has got to seek and destroy. He's got to be able to time him to get to him, whereas Bud is just going to be on top of him.
Agree.
Manny's not going to be able to get away from Bud.
Agree. I mean, you can't let Earl Spence be Earl Spence, because he becomes something like a juggernaut in that ring. It seems like he kind of gets stronger as a fight. So if you let him be him, then it's hard. That's why Sean Porter did a great job in fighting Earl Spence, because he didn't let Earl Spence be Earl Spence. Fresh, break you down at first, box you, break you down, then comes forward, come getting stronger and stronger as the fight goes on. So yeah, I agree with you. But Manny Pacquiao's speed, I'm glad you brought this up. His speed it it's starting to it's, at least on the bag. Again, we don't this is just the bag here, so I'm not gonna just say this is but I'm just throwing this out here. Like on the bag, Manny Pacquiao looks slightly slower than he did in his prime. But it's not night and day. It's not something that's very, very, a big difference. But there's a slight difference there. Is that his speed has it looks like it's dissipating on the bag a little bit, and when he's trying to jump in, do his combos. Now, this I did notice is that when he's jumping in, not throwing a punch, but jumping in, it's taking him a little bit longer to get to the target. And we know boxing is a game of inches, seconds, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're off by even half a second or a second, then that could, we can agree that could be devastating.
Well,
And
yeah,
so,
that's why
yeah,
in the video that you referenced to me responding to Timothy Bradley, where you said I was passionate. I said that in the video that he has definitely slowed down. But the thing about Manny is he's so fucking fast naturally that I think the speed that he has lost when compared to Earl Spence, he's still much faster. He's still, even though he's slower, and because he's slowed down, it will be easier for Earl Spence to be able to hit him now versus before. It's still going to be hard because, in my opinion, he's still much faster, even though he has slowed down compared to his old self.
yeah. See, that's the thing. I see what you're saying. I can still, even with him being a little slower, he's still. We can agree he's still faster than Earl Spence, but how much? How much? How? You see what I'm saying? Again, it's like it's kind of it's depending on how you're viewing.
Well,
Because
this
again,
is how I look at it. This is how I look at it. Check this out. Check this out.
I was going to say this real quick because we know that timing beats speed, and I think that Earl Spence, maybe not in the beginning of the fight, but later in the fight when he starts to time Manny Pacquiao, I do believe he's going to be able to time him easier when he starts to slow down, just naturally because of age and stuff. So that's why I'm like, even though he is faster, I mean, he's going to need every bit of speed he is going to need to beat Earl Spence, right? He's going to have to have. I mean, he's going to have to get as fast as he can. He can't afford to lose a little bit of speed. He needs to get as fast as he can because in a fight like this, going up against a big threat like this, you're going to need every tool in the toolbox at this stage of your career. But go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say as far as like the speed goes, I'm gonna compare two fighters to Manny. Okay, you had and both these guys gave Spence issues. Now he beat them both. Okay, beat one way worse than the other. The other one was close, but that's Kell Brook. Earl Spence Jr. had a lot of issues landing shots on Kell Brook early in that fight because of the speed. Now, when I look at the angle,
The hand speed, yes.
right. But when I look at the angles, the hand speed, and the feet speed of Kell Brook back then, I don't think they're as fast as an old Manny now. Then you come recently to the Porter fight that you mentioned. The issue in that fight was the fact that Porter was quick enough on his feet to close the gap and good enough to stay on top of Spence so he couldn't create that space. Now, it's an advantage and disadvantage for Porter because he gets so close, he smothers his own work. That's why he doesn't have a lot of knockouts because he's too close. He can't get his own power off. But with both those guys, even with Porter, I think he's slower than Manny, even now jumping in and out. So that's why I'm saying that I think Manny's speed is still great enough, judging off of what I've seen give Spence issues, that he's going to be able to close that gap, even being slower than he used to be. Because I still think he's faster than Brook and Porter.
Yeah, and that's why I disagree. I don't think he's faster than Porter at this point. I believe hand speed, combination wise, yes, but foot speed, no. I believe that with that slight bit of speed that has decreased, I believe that Porter is just as fast as Manny Pacquiao now, just in foot speed again, not hand speed, but foot speed. I believe that they're just as fast because if you look at him jumping into the bag, he is struggling to get there because again, just due to age. When you watch that, have you watched that recent Freddie Roach and Manny Pacquiao mid session? Did you watch that?
Yeah,
It's about a minute long. You can kind of tell he's starting to lunge in and reach in and make up that speed. And again, that's sad to say, but it's just due to age. And that's what I'm saying. I don't think he's too any much faster than Sean Porter is at this point. I've stated this before when it comes to foot speed. I don't believe he is. Not at this point. Because again, if not the fastest. I mean, I think you can make an argument that he's probably not excluding Manny Pacquiao, because we just put him on the side real quick. If Manny Pacquiao wasn't in the fray, I believe he probably has the quickest feet out of everybody. I think he's slightly faster than Keith Thurman, and I think that him and Crawford are kind of comparable. But if you're talking about just getting to the target quicker, I think his hand speed is slightly quicker than his foot speed is slightly quicker than Crawford's. Again, Crawford's fast. So that's why I'm like, I don't think that Manny Pacquiao is any faster than Porter is on his feet. I believe again, what's going to make Manny faster than Porter is just because the feet along with the hands. But if you're just talking about the feet itself, no.
But this is the thing about it. Even if I concede to your point, right? I'm going to concede right now to your point to say that they are equivalent now. That still means that Manny has more than enough speed to stay on top of Errol Spence, because Porter at the same speed of Manny did it.
Yes, he's still able to give him a tough fight. And I don't think that Manny Pacquiao is any slower than Porter. I give you that. I believe he's just as pretty much a very, very close. And I believe that he's going to do the same thing, try to do the same thing that Porter did, And I agree with you. But with that being said, Errol Spence, now this won't be Manny Pacquiao's issue because he does land, he's accurate. But Errol Spence, although Porter was able to get in on Errol Spence was able to tag Porter coming in. That's why those points, on the two judges' scorecards was kind of wide, because even though Sean Porter was missing, and I don't think Manny Pacquiao was going to miss like that, so I'll take that away. But if you're talking about Errol Spence tagging Sean Porter in, he was able to start tagging Sean Porter in the fight. And I don't think that Manny Pacquiao's chin is as good as Porter's chin. I definitely. Whose chin do you think is better, Porter's chin or Manny Pacquiao's chin?
That's hard to tell. I don't know. Because the thing about it is, Manny has been knocked out before, more than once. But if you look at the last time he was knocked out, it was against Marquez. It took Marquez 4 fights and to hit puberty a second time in life to be able to knock him out. So being that most people don't hit puberty at 40 years old, I would say that there was funny business going in there. So I don't know. I really do not know whose chin is better, because I don't think Porter has been in there with as many big punchers as even if you go a little bit down, I don't think Porter's ever fought anybody that hits like a Morales or a Barrera. I don't think he's ever faced something. And then the type of onslaught that they would put on that chin. So in order for me to really gauge Porter's chin, I need him to fight somebody like a Terrence Crawford, or even though I don't think he's what he used to be, Keith Thurman still has a good single shot. I don't think he's the same fighter that he was before all the injuries, but I still think he's got enough pop that we'll see, because Porter's been dropped twice now, right? Adrian Broner dropped him, and Spence dropped him, and that's why I gave Spence the fight. I had it 6 rounds to 6 rounds, but when you add in that 10-8 round by Spence dropping Porter, I gave Spence the fight. And like I said, when I did my pre-fight prediction, the fight pretty much went the way that I thought it was going to go. But I picked Porter to win, and I can be fair enough to my audience to admit when I pick a wrong fighter. And I know a lot of people say that they think Porter won that fight, but me being honest, I had Spence winning that fight. I had it a draw. 10-8 round separated it.
At most, I mean, and that's what I'm talking about, that fight. And there's people who say that. At the end of the day, you have to be very hard pressed to give Porter that fight. You have to be very hard pressed. I mean, Porter put up a great fight. I'll give him his credit. I didn't think he would put up a greatest fight as he did. So I must give credit where credit is due. Even though I didn't pick Spence to knock him out, I don't think anybody just knocks out Porter like that. He's a great stamina and a great chin. But I did expect Spence to be a little bit more dominant than what he was. So I'll give Porter that. But, I mean, it's hard. I mean, you can't make up a way to say Porter won that fight. I believe you can make up a way to say Porter. You can't. I don't even think that, even because with the knockdown, making it a 10-8 round, I don't think you could even come up with a way to make it a draw. It'd be hard enough to make it a draw, but to say that he won the fight, I mean, is that not a stretch? To say that he even won the fight, is that not even a stretch?
I know people who say they believe Porter won the fight.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say it's a stretch, because everybody's entitled to their opinion. But the way that I judge fights and the way, and I've done live commentaries in the past to where I do live scorecards, and I've probably done 80 plus live scorecards, and all but 2 of them were dead on to what the judges ringside were doing. So I would say that for the most part, like one fight was a robbery, and then the other fight was also looked like some funny business going on. But other than those 2 fights, all my scorecards were dead on. And like I said, me being, because I try to be the most unbiased I can be and as straight down the middle as I can, because first off, I don't know these fighters in real life. I'm not related to them and they don't pay me. So I don't give a fuck about swaying one way or the other because they don't do nothing for me. But outside of saying that, like I said, I saw Spence winning 6 rounds and I saw Porter winning 6 rounds. I think it would be a big stretch to give Porter 7 rounds in that fight, which would make him win it. It'd be a 7-5, and then with the knockdown, it would be 7-6, and still for Porter to win. I couldn't see it again.
Thank you.
I saw it 6-6, and it would have been a draw if not for the knockdown. But the knockdown happened, therefore, Errol Spence Jr., in my opinion, won the fight. That's just my opinion.
Agreed. So it'd be a stretch to say that he won the fight. People say you're stretching it. At most, even though I don't even think it was a draw, I don't think you could even argue that, but fine. At most, if you're just talking about try to give Porter, make it a draw at most, but to say he won the fight, that's a little bit of a stretch, yo. I can't. You're stretching.
Like I said, everybody looks at fights differently and they all have their own criteria about what they like. You know what I mean? But as far as I go, I could not personally. There's no way possible. I mean, first off, I've already scored the fight. I couldn't even give the fight to Porter, nor could I give Porter a draw. Like I've already said that Spence won the fight. But if I was going to stretch it, the furthest stretch I could do would be a draw in that fight. I personally cannot give Porter the win, but that doesn't mean somebody else couldn't, and that doesn't mean somebody else couldn't come up here and state their case of why they did it. You see what I'm saying?
And that's why I say you and me are in agreement. We're in agreement. I'm not saying that we're not. I see what you're saying. I'm just saying you and me are in agreement. And that's
I agree with you 1,000%. That Spence won that fight.
Yes. And see the way I score fights, and I'm very accurate. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. When I score fights, typically I'm very accurate, and I seen what I seen. Like for example, I had that fight 8-4 for Spence, and 2 of the judges pretty much agreed with me, plus the knockdown. But again, that's majority. If I find out, out of every 3 fights that I judge, typically 2 of the judges have 2 of the judges typically are pretty much around the scorecards that I have it basically. So basically, if a fight goes the distance and the fight goes through the whole duration, and it's one person's a boxer or one person's a brawler or a slugger, whatever. Typically, I'll say 2 out of every 3 judges pretty much see it the way I see it. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I have a pretty good track record. I had an 8-4, but again, I judge it based off of the Queensberry rule system. You know what that is, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so you gotta know that if you want to know boxing. So I judge it based off the Queensberry, basically hit and not get hit. Whoever hits and not get, I don't count body shots. I don't count work rate. You gotta land for me to score it. But I guess some people like to score it, like for example, they say the aggressor wins the fight, and I don't score like that. Do you?
The only time I would say that the aggressor wins the round. So this is how I look at it. Okay, as far as like. Because that would be like controlling the ring, him being the aggressor, right? Mm-hmm. That would be the lowest on the totem pole for me. Like before that, I'm gonna see who won. I mean, who landed the cleaner shots? No, even before that, who landed the most shots? Okay, did they land a significant amount more than the other guy? If no, then I go into who landed the cleaner shots. If it's still close, then I'm going into who landed the most power shots. Did one guy only land jabs and the other guy landed a bunch of power shots? Because power shots count more than jabs. So if that's still close,
in your system,
then finally I'll come down to, okay, who was pushing the pace of the fight? Who had the ring generalship controlling the match? Who was doing that? And if they're equal all the way down to that, then I will give the aggressor the round. But that is like, it's far down my line that you can go before I get to that.
Yeah, because there are boxing rounds where nothing goes on, right? It's like, oh, it's hard. You know, usually, typically in the first 2 or 3 rounds, you might see nothing really going on. So sometimes it can be kind of hard to score. And so, you know, first round or two. So yeah, I agree with you. The aggressor wins the fight. For me, that's last on the totem pole. That's last on the totem pole for me. Yeah. Then if nothing goes on, then this person trying to be aggressive, I'll give him the round, or I can just make it a swing round. To be honest.
Yeah, and I've done that too with little asterisks beside.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
On that note, I got to get off. You know, I made this
Okay.
live so you could jump on if you want to. For the people on the playback or anybody who's listening to it live, if you want to tell them who you are before you go ahead and do that, and then I'm gonna close out the live.
Oh, okay. No, I don't have a channel, man. I just like to chop it up, talk boxing, but I don't like to make boxing videos. That's not my lane. But thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem at all, and I appreciate you stopping by. On that note, this concludes my live. I'm gonna try to do more of these lives in the near future. I'm definitely, I was coming back on the 24th, but it looks like my live commentary is not gonna happen because the Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury fight very well could be postponed, and if it is, well, that's gonna delay me coming back on webcam. So on that note, I'm gonna close it here. I appreciate everybody coming through. People in the chat. Well, we had UGC Flame came through earlier, BK in the chat, Joe in the chat, Champ Ross, Javier, LaRon. Actual facts. So Angel Santos. If I forgot you, my bad. It only scrolls up so far. But all y'all have a good day and thank y'all for joining and listening.
Okay, bye.